Hi, I'm Richard. I am a compulsive overeater, and my abstinence is 3 weighed measured meals a day off the gray sheet. I write my food down, commit my food to my sponsor. I weigh and measure without exception. I don't eat no matter what. And as a result of these actions and the grace of God, one day at a time, I've been abstinent from compulsive overeating since February 15th of 1990. Abstinence is the most important practice that I do, and I call it a practice because it's not more important than family or job or anything like that. It's a practice. It's orthogonal. It's not on the same plane as God or family or stuff like that. And it's like throwing a ball before the game, a yoga practice, or just brushing my teeth. Something that I do. Since I'm delighted to see there are a lot of people are counting days. I've seen some of you on the meeting already today. That's good. And first of all, I appreciate Doreen asking me to speak. I do. I always think I'm going to prepare, but I probably spent 10 minutes this time, and it's probably best. So I went back and thought a little bit about my first week and how did I get here? And what I remember is I was in Al-Anon. My wife was an alcoholic, and she insisted I go to Al-Anon, and she insisted that I go to Al-Anon, which is probably a good thing. And wow, it's been a while. And I was struggling after about a year on my 4-step in Al-Anon, and my jeans were tight. I remember I wouldn't buy new jeans and I needed them, but I was just in such denial that I was gaining weight. Now, this didn't happen suddenly. It took probably 10 years for me to go from a reasonable weight to about 65 pounds over what I needed to weigh. And it went up, it didn't like go right up. It kind of went up and down, but still over any 2-year period, which was a reasonable period for me. I was always greater than the previous 2-year period. And so I knew there were people who were in the Al-Anon groups that were in Overeaters Anonymous, or they're doing something with their food. And I asked the ones that, I don't know, maybe they were there were just 3 of them that I asked, and they all directed me to this one particular gray sheet meeting here in Austin. And so, so on January 2nd of 1990, I went to that meeting. And I got a sponsor. I was really enamored of the idea that I'd be able to get a chip like my wife was getting a chip, a desire chip. But I also thought I should give this 30 days before I decide whether it's for me or not. Give it a good try. Let me backtrack 6 months before, when I was swimming, trying to lose weight. See how that was going. I would, anyway, this one particular occasion, I heard someone talk about the big book the night before, and after I swam my mile, I decided I'd get out my big book. I still have it. Good old friend. And I started reading with how it works. And when I got to the 3rd step prayer, I got it. I was struggling with my third step. And as a result, the direct result, and I'll just say that I got what was necessary for me to understand how to move on to the fourth step. And as a direct result of that, my thinking about food was revealed to me. And I started losing weight just because I was more conscious about what I was eating. I changed what I was eating. But for the next 6 months, I guess it wasn't 6 months, actually, it was 4 or 5 months. I still would find myself approaching the TV with a bag of something that we don't eat, that it wasn't mine. I didn't buy it. It was my wife's. And I'd eat all but the last pound, the last ounce or so. I wouldn't finish the bag, mind you. And so there were lots of little tricks that I played on myself to try to keep myself from acknowledging that I had an eating problem. So, and there was this one thing that shocked me one time. I was going to the building at work, and it's a mirrored glass door, and it was, wow, man, I sure look fat all of a sudden. And I got that burned in my mind. I'm really glad of it because I can go back there. I have a disease which is incurable, meaning I'll never, ever not be a compulsive overeater. It's progressive, which means if I start now, I'll be picking up as if I had been eating right along, and it's terminal. I mean, it's going to kill me. And it's not just the food or the health consequences, it's also the mental and emotional aspects of the disease that might kill me. It'll lead me to kill myself or just be stark raving mad. Let's see. Okay. So I went to my first meeting on the 2nd of January 2019. I made a mistake about 6 weeks later, and I've been abstinent ever since through the grace of God. And I want to make an emphasis here is you don't have to come from big numbers to need this program. I know a lot of people think that's an indication of how bad it was. I have a metabolism which burns food just when I'm sitting still. I'm an ectomorph, which means suggests my ancestors were never put through a killing famine so that I wouldn't have survived such a thing because I just wouldn't have held on to the calories. Consequently, food was not a problem until I got a desk job. And even then, I struggled. I went up and down. Okay. But my attitude towards food changed. And gradually it became more and more important because I didn't know how to live life. And these are sometimes slippery and very difficult to recognize. And I look back on it now through just living abstinently, having to be responsible, which means to me, I have to be responsible for the way I behave. Before it was, was always your fault or someone else's fault, wasn't mine, and I didn't know what to do about it. We've got the steps. It explains in the big book how to make amends. It's all there. There are many tools we have. And I'll mention some of the tools in just a moment. So a lot has changed. I went on and I've done a lot of things, but I always remember that first week. And I had some ridiculous meals. Yeah, got it. And I'm glad I had those ridiculous meals. Gradually, I learned what to do. And the thing that changed so rapidly for me was suddenly I was going to work. I was coming home from work on time. Suddenly, I was eating at the right time instead of putting off things until late afternoon and going out at 2 in the afternoon and overeating because I was so hungry. I started caring for myself. And that's what this program, the first major benefit for me was to learn how to care for myself. It's just something I didn't care about myself well enough. Wow. So fast forward, I'll just share some of my pictures. First of all, here's one. I think I was probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 maybe. You can see I wasn't, I wasn't a real fat guy. And there's one of probably 5. There's my father. I didn't come from, historically or ancestrally fat people. I had to learn this kind of stuff myself. That's one way to put it. And gradually, let me find one more here. Here's a picture of me weighing and measuring while on a scuba trip on the beach. I love that one. Wasn't the best meal I've ever had, but I've had many that were much worse. And then finally, is 1 or 2 more here. Well, I'll just say this is where I went to eventually. I went to living life, and instead of being afraid of it, being able to do it. Meanwhile, I've had lots of no matter what's, and wow, and many other disappointments in myself. But God's given me the grace to have compassion for myself and to learn that if I want to stop judging myself, like the self-talk about how bad I am or how I should have done this or should have done this, I have to stop judging others because it's reflexive. I have a judgment, no matter how subtle, on someone else. That's the stuff that powers my own self-deprecation. So I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes telling you what I do. I write my food down, commit as you know. One of the slogans I have is planning, logistics, and execution. And the planning is I write my food down the day before and have a good plan, not I'll get it later. That's like a normal person. I'm not a normal person around food. I have to write it down. I committed to my sponsor, and then I have to make sure that I get there with the food at the right time, where there's a place to eat, and I have the time to eat. And it might mean something like if I'm going to come home late, I'm not going to want to fix a meal. So I fix it in advance as far as I can. Finally, the execution, it's up to me. Mother isn't going to fix my meal for me. It's going to be me. And I'm responsible for all my actions, and I'm responsible for my absence in particular. And so I will just close it off with that. I hope you've gotten something from it. I'd be delighted to hear maybe what your plans are to stay abstinent over the holidays. That's always a good topic. And don't eat no matter what. Thank you.